he mentioned that I had high cholesterol, and my whole family, it was just normal to have high cholesterol. It's just like the thing. It's just like, oh yeah, you became an adult. Yeah, you eat a lot, and ha ha ha. Just like go for a walk. And but when you hear it when I heard it for myself, and then realize, hey, I'm not even 35, and I'm dealing with back pain, and I'm dealing with fatigue, and now I have cholesterol. So I began to question what is gonna be when I'm 40 or 45. I'm gonna be feeling like an old man, like a 60-year-old man when I'm in my 40s. So that idea, that was the first wake up call, or like the first you know that spark that initiated all.
That is Sergio Gaytan this week on the Do It For Yourself podcast. Hey everybody, how's it going? Beautiful weekend of racing here on the East Coast and in some other areas around the States. If you were in St. George or Philadelphia for the Broad Street Run 10 miler, some other small races going on around the area. I hope you had a fantastic race. If you were not racing this weekend, maybe you don't race at all. I hope you did get a chance to get out and enjoy the beautiful weather that we were having here in and amongst the area. This week's guest on the podcast is Sergio Gaytan. And Sergio is a triathlete who has a very similar story to that of my own. Sergio was overweight when he originally moved here to the States. It was a little bit of a product of coming to the States and having fast food available, whereas he did not have that before he moved up here to the United States for work. And part of it was he was just getting older and didn't have the metabolism that he used to have. And so we dive very deep into how Sergio got up to the weight that he had gotten up to, and also how he then worked some of the weight off through diet and exercise, and how that kind of parlayed into becoming a triathlete and now really immersing himself in the triathlon culture. So Sergio not only dives into his story very deep about how he had turned his life around, but we also get into some of the obsessions that kind of surround the weight loss community, and some of the misconceptions and the things that people think that they have to do in order to accomplish these huge weight loss goals. And we found out that Sergio and I actually had a lot of things that we shared in common, that we both had done going through our weight loss journeys, such as prepping and eating the same foods every single day for lunch and dinner, and weighing everything out, and really becoming obsessed with the food that we were consuming and in what quantities. So it was interesting to, see someone from a whole different world and a whole different life that really shared some of the same similarities, and some of the same things that I had gone through with my weight loss journey as well. So I won't give away too much of the interview here. I will allow Sergio to take it away and share his story, and I hope you enjoy this interview. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, I am here with Sergio Gaytan. How'd I do?
You got it right.
All
You
right.
got it right.
Hey, perfect. And Sergio is, have been following Sergio on Instagram. He is under Serg, and we will get all of that info at the end here. But I've been following Sergio for quite some time. And Sergio has a very similar story to my own, wherein he was overweight, and he had lost some weight and got into triathlon and has now found a love for this sport of triathlon and has made it more of a lifestyle instead of just a hobby. So, Sergio, I just want to say first, thank you very much for taking some time to, sit down and chat with me. I really appreciate that.
No, thank you so much. I mean, it's like I said, the messages is an honor for me. I mostly research a little bit on your Instagram page, and then I feel very connected through your journey. And then I'm very happy to share all my journey as well. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for the inviting.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. And I must say, it's April now. What is it? It's April the 17th, and I'm based in Wilmington, Delaware, which is probably about an hour outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And
Okay.
it feels like it is January 74th. It feels like we have not gotten out of winter yet. Like, not at all. Saturday was the first time that I got outside on a bike and got some tan lines from my jersey. And yesterday and today, we are freezing again. So I must say I am very jealous of the fact that just about year-round, you get to drive your Jeep Wrangler with the doors and top off.
Yeah, I mean, it's I tell my friends, you know what, in San Diego, it's great weather and all year round, and I really appreciate that. But sometimes I would like to get a taste of what it's like to have seasons, what it's like to see the colors of the fall, and then maybe some snow. But you guys get a lot of weather, and then here's the same thing all the time, like, which is very good. I'm not complaining, but yeah, a bit of seasons will be nice here too.
Yeah, and see, on the opposite end of the spectrum, I've always said that I wanted to be able to wear shorts and a T-shirt on Christmas, which I think I was able to a couple years ago here on the East Coast. But I'm sure that makes for some great training when it comes to your triathlon training.
Yeah, yeah. It's like I said, it is the same weather. It is around, like, I would say low 70s or high 60s, and then that's the high temperature, and then the low temperature doesn't go too low. It probably goes to low 60s or high 50s on the winter. So the difference is like about like 10 degrees from night to the day, and then that's year round. So I can't complain.
Yeah.
It's good, and it's sunny most of the time. We get that little bit rainy season, but it's almost like nothing.
Yeah, yeah, and you get the June gloom, I think is what they call it out there, right? Where it's like you wake up in the morning for almost the entire month of June, and there's like this fog that hangs around, and it usually doesn't burn off until like 10 or 11 o'clock.
That is for us who live in the coastal line. It's about like 2 miles away from the beach. I live in coast, so yeah, I get the May gray and then the June gloom. I get those 2 months of where there is a lot of fog in the mornings, but then it disappears at midday, and then it just comes back later in the day. But yeah, I mean, it's been some winters, quote quote, where there is continuous fog, and that's where I miss the sun a little bit. But our summer, again, quote quote, begins around July, August, where the warmest weather it's on September and October. So it's kind of like a little bit different. But yeah, it's only those micro weathers. It's only on the coastal line of California.
Okay, okay. And so, how long have you lived over in California? Have you been there all of your life?
No, I'm originally from Mexico, and I migrated to the U.S. via employment. I got my work visa. I worked very hard. That's a different story. I mean, at some point we'll like to share. But I'm a engineer, so I earned my work visa back in 2006. So that's when I moved to San Diego. So I've been living here since then, 2000, yeah, 2006. Yep. So I moved like from Mexico to San Diego, California.
Okay. Awesome. Wow. So, and you've been, but when you moved from Mexico, you moved to San Diego, California, and that's kind of where you have been since you came to the U.S.
Yeah, different little towns in San Diego, like
Mm-hmm.
a little bit more east and then a little bit more central. Right now, I'm in South San Diego, like Imperial Beach, where there's actually a race held in here. It's called the Super Frog. I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
you if
Yeah,
you
yeah, I've
heard
heard of
about
it.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's my town. Basically, that's where I train all the time, and yeah, that's my local race.
Oh,
Oceanside, it's about like 45 minutes from here, so that's another local one.
yes, Oceanside. That would just a couple weeks ago, actually.
Yep.
Yeah. So I want to go back to kind of your early days. Maybe even when you were back in Mexico, and talk to me a little bit about what was going on in your life at that point. Were you an active person? Were you sitting at a desk all day long? And what were some of your dietary habits, so to speak?
Okay, so I would sometimes I try I like to tell that story from that context. I'm glad you asking because from where I come, I'm not generalizing the whole nationality, but like from my circle of social circle and all that, the food has been always been some sort of like a joy to enjoy, and it's like a break, it's like a joy of life. So, and you just go into your activities, you go to work, and then come back, and then social gathering is very important. In my culture, food, it's always all. I mean, happiness is associated to food, and you pass that information like from generation to generation. And so, in my case, I was focused on my career. So like my adult life was all focused on always been try to focus on one goal at a time. So when I graduated from university, then my focus was to just get a good job with a good name, and then basically all my energy was focused on my career at that point. I never walk into a gym, never ran, never bike in my adult life, never actually, and I didn't even have access to a swimming pool. It was just out of my social circle. It was just not meant. It was just not a thing you do. So it was like normal not to do, not to be involved. So I didn't care much. I just dedicated myself, submerged myself into the books, and then gaining experience, gaining like making myself a career, and and grow towards that. So my nutrition or food or like my anything that has to be related with the food, it was because I just need to eat, and then or there's a party I'll just get with my friends, and then just eat, just like very happy eating and all that. So never actually had any experience with sports, and then my focus was in my career back in those days.
Now, that's interesting because the Hispanic culture is known for being big into soccer.
Yeah.
So it's big down there. There is where I live. There's also a very big Hispanic population here,
Hmm.
and they're very big into soccer up here. I mean, pickup games. There's a college right across the street, and a lot of the players from the college are either here on a student visa or they may live in this area and they chose to go to that particular school to play soccer because they have a pretty decent soccer program. So there was no sports or anything like that for you.
Never. I mean, I always said that I think I am a bad Mexican. I think I some sort of like just I don't follow the those the same like generic Mexican like culture. I always been some sort of like in the middle, some weird guy.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no soccer, no interested in. I actually don't even watch it, don't even enjoy it. My friends, my family, and then they all adore soccer, and then I'm the guy who just doesn't care about soccer. It's like some weird, exception.
So it was big for your family and it was big for your friends. You just didn't have a particular interest in it personally.
Not at all.
Okay.
None of the sports, none anything. Not zero interest.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. So now, when you came over to the States, I want to kind of touch on two different topics from that. The first thing I want to touch on is, were you leaving your family behind, and were you coming here kind of on your own? And I know that this is it's an entirely separate journey, but I do want to kind of hear about it. So what was that like to come here to the States?
I got married in 2000, so I moved away from my hometown into Tijuana, like which is the south town of San Diego, south of the border town. And so that's where I got my first job, and then so began to grow my career there. So when I moved here, I moved myself, and then my wife was she got here with the it's called like it's called dependent visa.
Mm-hmm.
She's not allowed to work, only me. So she wasn't allowed to work back then, and so like I said, my focus was here. So the when I moved here, the culture shock, like from someone to that moves, and I believe this applies to any nationality, any foreign nationality. When you move to the States, it's such a big culture shock for us to come here. Let me just give you a quick example. Like back in the day when I just worked in my last job in Mexico, every day we just shake hands and hug, and it was like a normal thing when you get to the office, shake hands, hug, and laugh. Go open up, just go have coffee, and then like that's how you start the day. So when I moved to corporate environment here in the U.S., it was a culture shock. Like nobody talks to each other, and nobody says even good morning sometimes.
Yeah.
So it was a big culture shock for me. It's like, I mean, I was just like, these people are not just normal, and they're not happy. What was wrong with this? So it was definitely an adjustment that I had to make. I had to not only go through a new job, not only go through all that process where you don't know anybody on a company, but like on a culture shock. And then the same week that I got there, it was someone's in the office was it's his birthday. So our manager were like, okay, so let's gather for celebrate. I forgot the name of the guy, but let's celebrate his birthday, and then just our new guy, Sergio from Mexico. Let's have a Mexican food. Let's go to a Mexican restaurant. And then I was like, okay, let's do it. So we went to this Mexican restaurant, and then so I would look at the menu, and then I'm just gonna have like tacos. I remember I think it was carne asada tacos, just like beef tacos. I remember having them, and then the first bite I took of them, I almost I almost spit them. It was. so bad. It was just like, this is not Mexican food. This is not what I'm used to. And it was very, very bad. Such a bad experience. But later on, as you become more Americanized, quote unquote, you learn to, like that style, and then somehow in your brain, separate the taste and then say, okay, this is American Mexican style, then this is real authentic Mexican style.
Uh-huh.
So you separate them, and you end up liking it. So I always like to be open to, you know, different, you know, situations, including food tastes and food choices and all that. But yeah, it was a big shock moving from Mexico to here.
And was that was it a difficult decision for you to make to move from Mexico to here, or were you so focused on building a good career for yourself that that was almost a no-brainer? Like you knew that when you had that opportunity, you were going to take it, no questions asked.
I'm glad you asked that question. Since I have a remember, like when I was a 8 years old, 9 years old, I used to watch, cartoons on the TV in English. So for me, it was an obsession to become, soaked into American culture since I was a child, like before being a teenager. So when I grew up and then became a teenager, all my listening was to English music, American top 40, and all that. And so when I became an adult, my goal was always come here and work here. So it has been my lifetime goal to earn that visa, and all I did since I was in my teens, all the way to high school and university, and then the jobs that I got in Mexico, they were all targeted with big names. Like, say, if I'm gonna work in a Mexican company, I need it to be something that it's worldwide known. So my job was working Coca-Cola and then working Sony. So with the goal of someday, I don't know when, back in the day, I didn't know when and how, I'm gonna have a resume that if I put it into a U.S. employer, it will look familiar.
Mm-hmm.
It will not sound like, oh, what is this? What is that? So then, when I finished university, what I focused was like, okay, so yeah, I got a title, but in some far country university. So what do I need to do about it? So I need to just go ahead and get us international certification. Even though I didn't have any job offer, I wanted to have a resume that looks world competitive, and then have like a international certification. So I don't have any excuse from any employer that will look at my resume and it will look like, oh, who's this or what is this? So that was my lifetime goal, to come here.
And so when you landed over here in the States, we already established that you didn't like the Mexican American food over here. Um, but you were still very focused on your career, very focused on building your career. So I'm going to go ahead and assume that you were not working just from 9 to 5. I'm going to assume that you were working extra hours. You were putting in a lot of time in order to make it over here, because you didn't want to waste this opportunity that you had in front of you and something you had dreamed of since you were a kid.
Exactly. So one thing that I gotta admire about what is like the to work in Mexico. When you work in a professional level in Mexico, you work long hours. So people there is a culture of working 10, 12 hours a day. And then the more you stay in the office, if you come there, get early, leave at night, the more chances you get, grow towards a promotion or building a career. So when I moved here, the majority of the people, and then I'm sorry to say, but the majority of the people here already established here, they only work from 9 to 5, and then for me it was like the shifts of 8 hours was just nothing. It
Mm-hmm.
was I was used to like work at least 10 to 12 hours a day, so it was the day passed really really fast. So for me, putting a lot of hours into work, I was used to that already. Like it was just, I mean, I had an advantage over the people that were used to this lifestyle here.
So now, do you think that that gave you a disadvantage when it came to your health?
Yes. So when I moved here, my like again, my focus was my career. So I always been into have this objective, like in a job. Say when I moved to Coca-Cola, my goal was say if I'm not a manager by 3 years, I'm gonna leave and then look for another job where I have an opportunity. So then I moved to Sony, and then the same thing. 3 years, that was my goal. So then move. So obviously, when you grow older and then you become more like in your 30s, high 30s and 40s, you don't want to have that short gap of 3 years switching from job to jobs. So when I moved here, my goal was like, okay, so I made it here, big accomplish. So let's build my a reputation here. So that included long hours, and then it was so easy for me to just go fast food. I remember, I mean, whatever was available here, you name it, Carl's Jr., McDonald's, KFC, Subway. Those were like the kind of food that I at some point I was happy to have access to because oh yeah, I'm in America, this tastes so good and it's so easy and it's so cheap. Now that I have an American salary, I can afford having those food that I when I was a teenager or when I was a kid. It was such a treat if I would go in and eat American food. So for me, it was such an amazing thing that I could just go out and eat fast food whenever I want, and then I can afford to eat fast food, as many times as I want, as many times as I feel like. So yeah, it obviously had a big impact, and I was in my early 30s or mid 30s back then, early 30s. So my metabolism was changing. I was not in my 20s anymore, so that's when I began to gain a lot of weight, and without like noticing, and you gain. I mean, I gained weight fast. Like probably I was into. I'm 5'10", and I gained probably. I think the heaviest I've been was 240, 250, and I gained really fast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, eating eating that food, even for 1 or 2 meals per day, that's going to tack it on, and it's going to tack it on fast.
Yeah. So I agree. So that was my basically my daily menu. I would just drive a little bit and get fast food like at midday, and then at night it was just easy and then accessible and then cheap.
Yeah, and you just worked probably a 10 or a 12 hour day. So do you really feel like cooking? Stopping at the grocery store, picking up groceries, cooking that food when you get home, and then no, you want to just get something quick, fast, easy, and go home and sit down and relax. You've just worked a
Yeah,
10 or a 12 hour day.
yeah, exactly. And then even if there was cooking, there was I'm bringing a culture of not even know what to cook or what to eat. I completely ignorant of it's like to eat healthy at home as well. So even if I cook or my wife cooked at home, that was not healthy anyways. So all my meals were unhealthy. All my meals were not like a focused on nutrition or balance, or it was just out of the question.
And at this point, you're in your mid-30s, and you can see that you are packing on this weight. Um, what was going on in your head when you looked in the mirror for the first time and realized this is not the person that I used to be, and this isn't the person that I want to continue to be?
It all started because being an engineer, a software engineer, basically your work you are sit all day. So I started working even before I graduate from school. So I had a job where I was a programmer back in '97. So I've been working sit since 1997. So when it hit me on the 30s, so meaning about like 15 years or 13 years after, um, it was because I had a lot of back pain. So it didn't happen in my late 20s. I didn't feel any discomfort on my back and all that. It all started in the early 30s, like a little discomfort in my back, and then totally ignored it. Maybe I thought like maybe it's just related to like maybe I sleep bad, and then began to realize, feel more tired. I began to realize that I was feeling, um, you know, tired at the end of the day, and then the next morning feel like sluggish, and then my back pain was more chronic, becoming more chronic, and still didn't relate any of those things to weight, problems. And then I began to build a culture or to go to and then just get an annual checkup. So that year, around I think I forgot what year, but it's my when I was in my mid 30s. When I went to the doctor and just get my checkup, and he mentioned that I had high cholesterol, and my whole family, it was just normal to have high cholesterol. It's just like the thing. It's just like, oh yeah, you became an adult. Yeah, you eat a lot and ha ha ha. Just like go for a walk. And but when you hear it when I heard it for myself, and then realize, hey, I'm not even 35, and I'm dealing with back pain, and I'm dealing with fatigue, and now I have cholesterol. So I began to question, what is going to be when I'm 40 or 45? I'm gonna be feeling like an old man, like a 60-year-old man when I'm in my 40s. So that idea, that was the first wake up call, or like the first you know that spark that initiated all that scary news, and then looking where I was heading. Yes, I had a success in my career. Yes, I was building myself, a good reputation, and I was becoming, growing my career is year to year, getting promotions, get a better salary, and all that. But my health was going all the way to the trash can.
And did you have any kids at this point?
Yeah, I had one kid, and a boy, and then I have a daughter. So yeah, back then, yeah, I have my daughter was recently born
And you
when
had
I when
and you had your son too.
yeah, and I have my son too.
So did that ever cross your mind? Like, I mean, they were young enough that they may not realize, that you were setting an example for them. Um, But did it cross your mind to, like, hey, at 50 or 60 or whatever it is, I'm not going to be able to do anything with them if I continue on this path.
Yeah, it was scary to realize how young I was. I was supposed to be in my prime physical. Um, you know, I just couldn't imagine what it'd be like in the next 10 years, and then having them to grow and see me successful in one area, but like completely trashing another one.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that was one of the things that resonated too.
And did your doctor give you any advice or any tips or kind of lead you on a path at all?
My doctor only suggested, you have to make lifestyle changes. They're generic. Eat healthy and then try to, exercise. That's it. That's the only advice he gave me. Um, it I was the one who made the decision to go to an active lifestyle, and the reason I did is because um, I had a few efforts of fixing my diet before I got that heavy, and so successfully lost all the weight. Like back in before I got into my heaviest, I was able to fix um, my weight, like probably lose 20, 30 pounds successfully with only adjusting my diet. Like say I'm not gonna go out and eat at night, and I'm just gonna just hold my cravings, and then lose maybe 20, 30 pounds, and then yeah. So but what was different back in the 30s, and then it was that I seen that other people are seem to be really really happy and seem to really enjoy being active. So uh, it was like a little spark that initiated. It's like what is like to run, what is like to be able to bike, and then these people don't seem to be suffering. These people look to be happy. So I want that. So I wanna try that. I don't wanna lose. I don't wanna regain all the weight again like I did. Um, and I was ready to like give a lifestyle change a try. And yeah, that's how I always started. And then I knew it was different because I wanted to try that. My I didn't want it to back then. No, like there was no triathlon. There was no GPS and Garmin's and all that gizmos and all those things that with the more you get into and all that. There was no racing. There was my only motivation was let's go out and then just do 10 minutes of running, 10 minutes of walking. If I get tired, I'll walk. And as simple as that. That's how I started. Just 5 minute walk, 5 minute run, and then see what it's like, and then see what it feels like.
Yeah. So when I went for, and I did play sports in high school, but post high school and very, very close to the end of college was when I started getting into fitness. And when I went for a run for the first time, it was because I woke up that morning and I wanted to go for a run. Like, it wasn't a coach yelling at me, telling me to run laps. It wasn't running for phys ed class in school. I went for a run because I wanted to go for a run. And I just knew that I wanted to run, no matter how slow it was. I wanted to run for that first mile. I wanted to run the entire first mile of however far I was going to go. I could have run that first mile and just been done, but I wanted to run the first mile. And then my goal was to just, walk a little bit and then start running again. And then when I got tired, I'd walk a little bit and, make the run portions a little bit longer, make the walks a little bit shorter, and
Yes.
kind of build it that way. So I can completely relate to where you're coming from.
Yeah, yeah, the same thing. I would just go out and then try myself to run to the other, the next corner of the block, and then there I'll just stop walking. And then the beach, it's around 2 miles from here, from where my house is. So my lifetime goal was try to make it to the beach, and then try to run. My treat was go and then run in the sand, but start from here, like from my house, and then my end goal was to run 2 miles basically.
Yeah. And so when you started, now obviously, I mean, and so this was, you moved to the States. I mean, this wasn't, triathlon was around at that point in time, right? It wasn't, I know it wasn't what it is today, but there was definitely, it was out there.
Yeah, it was out there, and definitely it resonated. After I started like running, and obviously get into injuries, all the injuries, name it, shin splints, runner's knees, because of the extra weight I was carrying. Yeah, I heard about triathlon, because one of my friends, he was into mountain biking, so I kind of like wanted to try mountain biking, just to, because of I got injured during running, so I was like, what if I just have an option to just go bike? If I can't run, then I'll try to go biking. So a friend of mine told me, you know what, maybe you're not meant for running. So maybe you're just, you're not built for running, and not all the people are runners, and some people have bad knees, and I remember I refused to believe that. I refused to say, no way, this cannot be. But yeah, I mean, it's an information that you get, and someone tells you, that you're not built for that, and then maybe they're trying to like give you an option, or maybe try to encourage you to try to not like be discouraged by offering you another option. But at the same time, they're passing a negative information about like maybe I'm not meant to be running, or maybe I'm not meant to, I don't have that physical capability. So that's how I got into mountain biking. So after a few months of mountain biking, I with a group of friends, I heard about this concept of triathlon back in 2010. And I was very curious, obviously afraid of, terrified about open water. And because I knew how to not drown in the swimming pool, but I was not even able to just swim one lap. But I was very curious about triathlon. Yes, it was not very popular, but there was like it is right now, but it's in San Diego. It's a very known sport here. There is always has been races. I believe that's where it's the birthplace of triathlon, not Ironman, but triathlon, the sport. There is an island called Fiesta Island here, like maybe 10 miles from here. That's the birthplace of triathlon. So triathlon used to be like a big thing. This used to be the Mecca, and San Diego used to be the Mecca of triathlon back in the 90s, when it wasn't that very popular, by the way. So, but anyways, there's always has been triathlon here in the community. There's always been races. There was one race held by ITU, the San Diego ITU, and it was such a great race. The blue carpet and all that, so fancy.
Uh-huh.
And so after I gained some experience with mountain biking, I went and just got excited and bought a road bike. And parentheses, I lost all my mountain bike friends because I got a road bike. They were like, "Oh man, what are you doing? It's so boring. Where's the excitement?" So I didn't care. I wanted to have a road bike as well because I really was curious about triathlon. And I in my mind was like, someday I'm going to do a triathlon.
And road cycling is also pretty big out in California, right?
Yeah, it is. But my circle of, social circle was all
Oh
mountain
yeah,
biking.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's all guys that are like more rough, hey, mountain bikers and all that. It's like a culture, more rough culture than road cycling. But yeah, community here in road cycling, it's huge. There's a lot of mountains to go, and then a lot of, you name it, flats on those coast, and then a lot of hills in the east of the country. So yeah, I mean that's how I lean towards triathlon.
And so
Um,
when you signed up for your first race for triathlon, had you lost any weight? Had you lost all the weight? Where were you in that part of your journey?
I was I was not obese anymore. I can't remember how big I was, but definitely I was not obese. Um, Definitely zero fitness at all. Probably I was carrying maybe an extra 20, 30 pounds from where I am right now, maybe more, maybe 40 pounds. Definitely, you probably can't think of someone to be categorized as a skinny fat.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my the weight I was when I signed up for my first triathlon.
And how did that go?
Horrible. So I signed up for ITU. I wanted to be badass and sign up for Olympic distance instead of a sprint. and I signed up for that race, and I decided to give it a go and then start swimming. And my biggest fear was to swim like anyone else in the sport. So yeah, I had ocean here, but never actually swim in the ocean. So I swam once before the race. Try to make sure that I'm able to cover the whole distance for an Olympic triathlon. But yeah, my goal was like, okay, just go to the pool, see if we can make one lap and then once I got one lap, see if I can get 50 yards. And then the same thing, the same, approach as running. It goes 75. Let's do 100 yard. Okay, yeah, I know. At least I know what it's like what's my, pace, like, like minutes per 100 yard. So yeah, so that's how I started. So, and then did the math. How many laps is Olympic distance? So okay, so there's 40. Okay, so I'm gonna aim for that before the race. So that's how I started. I started out swimming. The swim was on a bay, no waves at all. But I finished last. Like I remember, I started my age group, and we all went in and like she's jump in the water, and then at some point I was just like, do not drown. I was just having in my mind, do not drown, do not drown. And I remember I was swimming my best, like pulling the like water really hard, and there was this guy floating alongside me, backstroking, floating, and I was barely, like I was not able to pass him. So I was just like, pulling the water and just not moving. I must have been like sucking really bad. So I remember I saw one big guy in front of me. The guy was big, big. So I remember I'm gonna beat this guy. I can't beat this guy. I don't think I'm gonna be slower than this guy. And I couldn't beat him. So he passed me. I never actually got to beat him. He walked out of the beach and then turned back, and I had the kayaks on my back, and I was officially the last guy. So yeah, and so jump on my bike, and then there was no bikes in transition, so I know what it's like to be last and out of the water. So yeah, I got in my road bike, my fresh road bike, and we began to climb to it was a two loop course with a climb on a hill, and yeah, that's how it all started.
And so you're telling me that you just completely sucked. You felt almost very defeated coming out of the water. The kayak's right behind you. What possessed you, so to speak, to sign up for another one of these things?
Um, just for reference, my time on an Olympic distance was almost 3 hours and 40 minutes. It was awful. But when I was able to, when I finished the bike and then went to the run, obviously the run felt like a marathon. It was just only 6 miles for the people that don't know what the Olympic distance is. It's a 10K, 6.2 miles. The run was awful. Obviously, I walk it, run, jog it, and then walk again. So, um, but there is this spark in triathlon. There is energy that you get, from your first. You never forget your first race. You never. There is this feeling of self accomplishment when you deal with something so um, difficult to achieve. Um, that feeling, you probably you completely understand this, but I'm saying this for the people that are new to the sport. The feeling of breaking those limits, pushing yourself into something that you thought you will never be able to accomplish, it triggers this character in your mind, in your heart, and it builds such a confidence. It builds this strength in your mind that you feel that you're able to accomplish more things. um, it's a cliche. It's even a slogan for Ironman, but it's a human thing. It's a human need for breaking through the limits. So that happens when you do your first race. You obviously get hooked to what if I do another one? What if I did an Olympic? I think I could do a sprint now. So it unleashed this personality that I didn't know I had in me. So this toughness of dealing with your biggest fears, the toughness that you can translate out of the sport in life, like in your work. You become a leader. You become someone that you believe doesn't have any limits. So that potential, it's found in a challenge that you are able to accomplish. So this sport has that special gift that unleashes that into your mind, and then you are able to go towards it, and then just keep on growing. That strength, and basically lights your fire to go to different and harder goals in life.
And so you completed that first one, and regardless of how bad it hurt, how bad you were like, oh my God, what did I get myself into? Especially in the swim, you wanted to keep going, and it's almost like the script had flipped, and you were maybe not 100% satisfied with your career, but you were happy with where your career was, and you found this new outlet where you could really begin to push the envelope again, just in a different way.
Exactly. So yes, I had challenges at work. Yes, I had challenges in my house, personal challenge out of the sport. But yeah, I mean, having breaking through all these limits in a sport, basically you find that strength that you didn't know, and then you're able to translate into other aspects of life as well.
And so You that you did your first as an Olympic. Um, Talk to me a little bit about kind of what came after that, and for you over there in, as we were saying, Southern California, you don't really have necessarily an off season. I'm sure there's races going on, all year. So, did you do another race within that same year, um, or did you hold off and do a little bit more training and then sign up for your next one?
So yeah, of course, I signed up for more races that same year. I believe that ITU that race it's no longer held in San Diego. Too bad. I mean, but I believe it was on April or May, so it was an early season triathlon. So for me, it was like, oh yeah, I can do triathlons now. So let's sign up for the next local one. So and then I believe that year I signed up for another two or three sprints, and that's where I felt more comfortable. Yeah, so definitely my goal for, I think that was 2012, I believe, or 2011, 2012. So I believe I did about like three or four races that year. And then, at the end of the season, quote, quote, end, basically you move on to like, you begin to learn what it's like to be off season, as being new to the sport. It's like, why is this people are training indoors? So in my case in San Diego, I don't have the need for that, but I do. I mean, I'm looking at my bike right now, so I do a lot of indoor training, but not because I don't have access to, or because weather, it's bad. It's because I try to focus on doing more structured work and all that. So it's just better to have them done indoors. But yeah, there's no official off season here. There's like year round races. As far as triathlon goes, the season ends really late. It there is triathlons in December still, and then the season begins in March. So there is probably like 3 months with no triathlons. Because the only fact, because the wet water from the ocean, it's cold. But yeah, that's the only reason. But there is always cycling year round, and running. So there's probably no triathlons for 3 months, but there's a lot of running. There's a lot of cycling events. So obviously, I sign up for those.
And what happened to your nutrition and your weight as you started to get more and more into triathlon?
Okay, so I got happy you asked that question. So triathlon was a mean for me to keep the fun, but I always had a goal, of weight loss, and then fixing, or I had this dream of just lifetime goal, if you want to call it, of fixing my body composition. So I was completely not satisfied, where I was. So yes, I lost a lot of weight. Yes, I can, like, probably with clothes on, and I look like a thin person. I think I used to wear maybe a 32-inch pants size. So okay, so just like a normal guy, it doesn't don't have it's not big guy. I was not a big guy and all that. So, but I was not happy with it. I wanted to jump to the next level. So triathlon obviously offered me a chance to, to have some sort of calorie burn. But I was big into put a lot of effort into my gym, so a lot of weightlifting. And 2013 and became an obsession, to fix my body composition, all the way to, I remember I went and then just went to this fat percentage. What's it called? Like, just they put you on the water, and basically they make you suck out all, I mean, breathe out all the air, and put you on a fat measuring scale, and that was very scary, by the way. So, but yeah, I got my fat percentage measured. I remember the guy, a very buff guy. He told me, "Oh man, really? Are you had that percentage?" It was very disappointing. I remember I had 18 or 19 body fat percent at that point, and I was not big. So what that told me is that I had zero muscle, and I had a lot of fat. So I was officially a skinny fat guy. So, and he told me, "Oh yeah, yeah, this is your percentage." And I was very discouraged and obsessed. That was my goal back in 2013. Let's do something about it. Um, as an engineer, obviously, I wanted to, find a formula, find a mathematical solution for that. And I got submerged into the math of how to lose the fat and keep the muscle or build the muscle and burn the fat. So that was my next project. So I remember reading books, doing a lot of research, and it all came down into a lot of science, like like literally numbers, like say, okay, this is your weight, this is your percentage, this is your macronutrient ratio that you want to hit if you want to build muscle or keep the muscle and burning the fat, and this is the amount of carbs that you are allowed to eat. This is the amount of fat, and I got very scientific, very nerdy. So that's the way I think, and that's the way I process things. I recently that's a different subject, but I'm changing my mind over that. But back in the day, that was back in 2013. That was very necessary for me. Learn all the math about how to achieve single digit body fat and then fix my composition, and not to be a skinny guy, a skinny fat guy, but going to the next level. I mean, that was like my project. How do I do that? That keep me busy, very busy. Keep me thinking, doing a lot of numbers, crunching numbers, and I was like my own guinea pig. So it was so fun.
Well, and you have an engineering brain, and I have a younger brother who's also in engineering, and the engineering brain for the lay person like me is not something that's very easy to understand. You guys love numbers, you love figuring things out, you love sitting down and looking at numbers and crunching them and solving problems like numeric math problems. And so I could see why that was something that was like almost enjoyable and fun for you.
Yeah. So yeah, it was so fun. I mean, I still have those spreadsheets where I did all the math. I remember I obsessively went into food logging. Just like meal preparation, and then I became some sort of like bodybuilding style lifestyle, and because I really wanted to make myself someone that I was able to not just become thin, but something that I wanted to feel what it's like to be look fit. That was like my goal back in the day. It was a fun project, definitely. For those who like numbers, and there is a math formula for each of the things that we eat, each of the things that we intake every time we go to sit on a table. But yeah, I mean, it was just a stage of my journey. Now I don't do that anymore. It became more like cruise control. It became more like a natural thing. I don't even think in numbers. I don't want to dig into numbers anymore. It is a fun project, like maybe for 6, 8 months. to go and then solve every single puzzle mathematically, but it's not sustainable. It's stressful. You burn out. I burn out at the end of the year. I achieved my goal. Yes, I got into 8 or low 8 body fat percentage. I burned, 10% of fat, and then I was able to build muscle. And yeah, but at the end of the year, I was done with it. I'm like, I'm tired of this strict lifestyle. And it was just the other extreme. It was just not sustainable.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I think that I don't think that there's any harm in tracking your food, every day. So whether you're tracking calories or you're tracking macros, whatever your choice may be, I do still track just about every day. And it helps keep me balanced. And it helps keep me balanced in the aspect that if I have a cookie, I can get back on track and I can see that cookie's not going to affect, the overall picture of not just that day, but that day, that week, that month, etc. And, it also shows you that you can have the cookie and guess what? Nothing bad's going to happen from having one cookie. But I did the same exact thing that you did. I did the meal prepping. I did the food scale. I weighed everything out to the exact ounce, measured the rice, had the broccoli. The chicken was cut and weighed. And I mean, it's almost obsessive. And you can't go anywhere or do anything with anyone else because you don't know how that piece of chicken breast was cooked. And, what if it's more than 4 ounces, and you just had 4
Yes.
ounces beforehand. And, so it just becomes this obsessive nature that it really isn't fun to be around.
No, yeah, I went through the same journey as well. So I remember having the same meal. So I bought this grill. So because I didn't want to add calories with oil. So then I basically came to the conclusion back in 2013. So what's the ideal meal, the ideal macro for each meal? And because it was so hard to log or try to come up with the perfect meal balance, if I vary the different type of foods, I end up making my life easier by going the same food all the time. So for 7 months, I had the same meal every day and night, like the same meal. So I had very specific measure for the breakfast. It was, by the way, it was the same as you. It was 6 ounces of chicken.
Mm-hmm.
It was broccoli and brown rice, half a
Mm-hmm.
cup of brown rice. It was the perfect balance according to the book. It says it's the perfect balance. And then I would just eat like 2 times a day, the same thing, and I will have 6 almonds because it's the perfect, uh, you know, fat amount that I need. The problem was when I need to socialize, when I need to go out and eat with my wife or go out with my kids. How do I fit that into my lifestyle? That was the problem. And yeah, you mentioned about the example cookie. It becomes obsessive, and then it basically breaks mentally. It discourages you. You feel like you break a perfect pattern, and you get so excited because you see results. Of course, your body changes, and then you are basically feeding a machine. You're basically becoming a robot. And but the different situations in life, then you're not able to socialize like you used to, and then you begin to lose friendship. I lost my friends because of I was not able to just go eat out with them. And if I go out with them and then have a different, separate, meal for me, or I just bring a little Tupperware and then I'll have it, and let's go gather, and I pull up my Tupperware, and I did that back in the day,
Yeah.
and then it just made me feel really off,
Yeah.
and you lose other things. Yeah, you gain your goals, and then you are able to achieve this amazing goal of just fixing your body composition, but you lose other things in life, and that's when it just by the end of the year it was so burnt out because just you can't sustain that.
And so, what do you do now to still remain where you are, and remain happy, but also have that balance of being able to go out with your wife or go out with your kids, get an ice cream cone or a Dairy Queen Blizzard, um, go out for drinks with friends after work, have a nice steak dinner, with the mashed potato, with the loaded bacon, cheese, all that stuff. Go to In-N-Out Burger. Like, how do you personally balance that?
So I found the concept of uh, calorie zigzagging. I found the concept of um, uh, carb tapering. So those are like just you are able to balance better. I mean, you have a good, I would say, like the high percentage of your overall nutrition, say you're 80-90%, it's clean food, it's highly high quality food, and then you are able to give yourself liberty. So with food that is not necessarily clean. So, and that basically creates this sensation of freedom that you're not prohibitive of having a burger. You're not prohibitive of having a social life. So for those who don't know, calorie zigzagging, it's a great concept. It's just one tip that I learned with the years, is that when you basically go and over exceed your caloric needs, meaning it's like without sounding like very robotic, you're allowed to eat more. You're allowed to eat bad for a day, even if you need it for 2 days, 2 days in a row, doesn't really matter. And then the next day you do the opposite. Say for a weekend you have a social event, and then in advance, okay, so I'm gonna have this party with my friends, and then that's gonna be my high caloric day. So I'm just gonna go eat out and have freedom of eating whatever I'm gonna enjoy the cake, the birthday cake. I'm gonna enjoy a burger with a friend, after a race. Quote, I just did that with a friend in Oceanside. Um, and you just have the liberty, and then celebrate whenever you have to celebrate. And you know that it's all planned. It's all like that you have to go back to your base. It doesn't break you mentally. Like you don't feel guilty about it because the next day or whenever you have to go down in calories, you do with the same happiness or energy that you do the high calorie days as well. So the other concept I mentioned is that, I'm going back a little bit of calorie zigzagging. It's a great fat burner technique. It's because in the body, with the weight loss and body fat process, I always like to have this analogy. It's like sailing a boat. You know, it's you don't go on a straight line when you're sailing a boat. You always go to the left or the right. To the left or the right. So it's the same thing with body fat, body fat loss journey. You're always gaining or losing. You don't stay. You don't go straight. So you one day are losing or you one day are gaining. So and then but the end, like with the weeks and months, it looks like a straight line, but it's not. it's not the same case from one day to even if from one week to the other one. So when you go to calorie zigzagging, you gain weight. Basically you ingest more carbs that you need to, you ingest more fat, and then you drink water and all that. All that basically loads into your body, and then your metabolism switches into a stored fat storage mode. So then when you switch to low calorie, your metabolism is like a shock. It's like, hey, I was expecting this food and this amount of food, but it's not happening. So it switches into, you basically revolutionize your metabolism, and you're able to burn more fat. That's one technique I use. I use like to go like from lowered, body fat percentage. And the other I've been using lately, it's the carb tapering. It's the concept of carb tapering is basically having your starch carbs. For those who don't know what the starch carbs are, like bread, maybe cereals or potatoes, and those are the starchy carbs. You try to have them as early as possible in the morning. Say if you have your time to work out in the morning. Say you have your training done in the morning. You surround those training with potatoes, with cereal, with oatmeal, and then as the day goes by, you switch your carbs into more veggies instead of starches. So at midday, I'm like eating more brown rice and vegetables, and at night for dinner, I'm eating lettuce, and almost no carbs at all. So that allows me to have all the energy I need for the day. I'm able to burn all that, all those carbs that I eat throughout the day, and at the end of the day, you basically have the energy where you need it the most. And when you go to sleep and all that, you basically are your storages are low, and then you go to sleep, and then you burn fat during the night. So that is a technique I've been using. I started using in December, and I'm still using it right now. So I was able to jump from 13% all the way down to 8.5, which is like really, really hard. Like at the lower you get, the longer it takes you to burn that fat, the so-called stubborn fat. But I highly recommend that technique. It works, and it's amazing. I heard it from a coach, very famous coach, Matt Dixon. I don't know if you heard about it.
Yes, I have.
Yeah, he mentioned it, and he just mentioned the words, what is this carb tapering? So I went into, Google and then research. I was kind of like doing it without knowing, but now that I know that it has a name, so when more investigate more about it, and it definitely it makes a big difference.
That's interesting. I have not heard either of those terms, the carbs, the calories zigzagging, or I'm sorry, what's the other one? The carb tapering.
Tapering.
And so it's funny because the calorie zigzagging, I do that myself without even knowing that I was doing it, because like you said, the weekend is usually the time where you're going to kind of go off track, so to speak.
Yeah.
For most triathletes, depending on the distance that they're competing in, the weekends are the time that you have your biggest workouts. So, you could be on the bike for 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. It all depends, on one day, and then the next day you're doing an hour and a half to 2 hours run. So it just kind of, the zigzagging kind of plays into your triathlon training schedule as well. But the carb tapering is something that sounds very interesting, and I am definitely going to read up on that a little bit more. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, it's amazing. I after the accident, I had a big bike crash on November. Um, and I gained a lot of weight. So because your metabolism is hungry, because you're just actively training a lot, and then from one day to the other one, you're not allowed to do anything. So, but the metabolism doesn't know, so it still wants to eat like a burning fire machine. And so I naturally gained weight, probably gained like 15 or 20 pounds, and went up to 13% body fat. So, but yeah, that was one of my goals, and then that was the strategy I've been using lately.
And the last thing that I want to hear from you about is what do you have on your schedule for this season? I know that you said, unfortunately, you were in a bike accident back in November, so I'm sure that kind of put a little bit of a hold on your training. But are you still registered and racing for anything within this season?
Yes, so yeah, totally. So the I have a broken clavicle end of November, the weekend of Thanksgiving. So that I had a big accident. So broken clavicle, three ribs, and then a collapsed lung. So it was a big bad crash. So definitely put a thing on my training for a month. But I do I try to do the fastest recovery possible, and I was able to just get on my trainer. So and just bike, spin the legs, and then walk. I remember just walking 10 minutes and sleeping 3 hours after 10 minutes of walk.
Yeah.
It was an awful different story, but yeah. Responding to your original question, I signed up for early season triathlons. I already did a 70.3. It's called it's one local race held in Long Beach, California. It's a south town of LA. So I signed up for that 70.3. It's called the most popular off grid mid distance triathlon. But anyways, it was a fun day, so I did that one. Uh, I had a big breakthrough on my run, even though my focus wasn't on the bike. But I put the fact that I was able to lose so much weight. This is something that I'm doing this season differently. I'm down to 144, actually 143 pounds. So the run is super light. It feels amazing to run, and then the body heat. It's just it's just so less body heat when you are that light. And so I had a big PR on the run, so I'm pretty excited about it. I was able to run in 139 half marathon on that race. So I'm pretty excited about it. Never
Yeah,
had that.
that's speedy.
Yeah, no, I was very surprised. I mean, I'm still working on the bike. It was a rainy day, so I couldn't do much on the bike. I definitely feel more stronger on the bike, but it was a rainy day, and then the course it's a little bit it's a bike path, like huge bike path, and then it was all wet, so I didn't feel confident to push on the bike, especially because of the accident, and I still feel like a little bit not like 100% confident, and then way less on a rainy day. But anyways, I had the race, and then I had a sprint. I had fourth place on that race. I'm pretty stoked about it. Another PR in there, and then I had a 5K, another PR. So definitely, this season it's looking very good. I was not able to break the 20-minute mark. I was shy 30 seconds, so the 20, 30 something, 20, 34, I think. But I mean, it set my mind like a new goal. So let's break the 20-minute mark on a 5K. So then I having a half marathon this weekend. So in La Jolla, California. And then after that, I'm having another sprint race, another local one, and then that's in May. And then June, I have a couple of triathlon locals, and then a half marathon. And then so I set my season to be um, first half of the year to be all short distance and intense short distance. So focused on intensity, and with the focus of having the second half of the year to be 70.3 dedicated. So in July, I have Santa Rosa 70.3, and then I have Super Frog, Tempe, Indian Wells, and another local 70.3, not Ironman branded, but it's a total of five 70.3s starting on July.
So 570.3 starting in July, and when's the last one?
December, early December.
Whew. And
It's a
what's
long season.
yeah, well, and how much time do you have in between each of those 70.3s?
Those are around 4 weeks separated. So I would say a little less than a month.
Okay. Yeah, pretty I mean a pretty good time to you have a little bit of time to recover and then do a solid probably like 2 weeks of training and then start to taper off a little bit. So
Yeah,
that's not too bad.
yeah, it's not that bad.
But I mean, I don't know that I could do. I don't know that I could personally do multiple. I could probably do two 70.3s in a season. Um, I don't know that I could do any more than that.
It just
It,
comes. I mean,
it's
yeah,
oof.
I had a couple of back-to-back races this past month, and definitely, yeah, you feel it. I was still limping, like maybe 2 days before the race, a little bit worried about it, but I mean, I was able to recover for the race. So yeah, but yeah, 4 weeks is not that bad.
And like so, typically for me, what happens is like August, September is pretty much the end of the season for us over here.
Oh no.
You could race in October. There used to be some people who would try and do it, but over here that late in the season, it's hurricane season, down at the
Yeah.
beaches. So a lot of people have ended up not doing it any longer. They just, they pretty much end it in September. So normally for me, it's like I race in the middle of August, I race at the end of August, and then I race in the beginning of September. And after and the September race is a 70.3. So after that 70.3 race, I'm like done, no more.
Yeah, there's a lot of racing happening here. September, like I said, the warmest months are here, September and October. So yeah, there's a lot of activity happening here on the
Yeah.
West Coast.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Well, Sergio, I did the same thing that I said I was going to try not to do to you, that I did to Ginny Loves Try. And we just get talking and the time gets away from me. So I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you very much for dedicating, this much time. I'm surprised that your kids haven't started like yelling and screaming because they're hungry for dinner out there. I guess your wife and their mom is doing a very good job of keeping them occupied.
Yeah.
But again, thank you so much for jumping on with me and for taking the time and sharing your story. It's a story that hits very close to home for me, and I love hearing stories of everyone getting, healthy. But to hear a story so similar to mine, it just really hits home. So thank you for sharing that.
No, thank you so much for the invitation. I know this was going to be a perfect opportunity for me to, share more about the weight loss side of my journey. So I'm pretty happy to share all those details with you and then with your audience. And then because there's a lot of people that go and then just, find the sport triathlon and then, but they started doing because of weight loss, goals. So it's amazing to share that all that with you and the audience.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Sergio, I hope you have a great evening, and I look forward to following you much more this season and keeping up with you on what's going on with your racing schedule and everything else.
Oh, thank you so much.
Well, there you have it, my friends. That is this week's interview here on the Do It For Yourself podcast. I want to take a minute to say thank you to Sergio. I was very excited to have him on, and he was very excited to come on as well and share his story. Like I said, just not solely based on the fact, but having such a similar story, him and I, it was great to get connected and be able to share some of the details of our stories together and kind of, go through the similarities and the differences and, where we saw some kind of parallels throughout both of those stories. So thank you, Sergio, for coming on and really diving into your story with us here on the Do It For Yourself podcast. The last thing, if you have made it this far, that I would like to ask you for is please make sure to give us a 5-star review and leave a review on iTunes. This is going to help us a lot. So we don't charge for the podcast. I don't charge for the podcast. I don't charge for the episodes that I put out each week. There is no secret club where you get extra episodes, extra cut out deleted scenes or anything like that. So if you could do that for me, you could leave a 1-star review if it was something that you didn't like. If you do leave 1 star, please give me some feedback on why you didn't like it. Don't just 1 star for the sake of 1 star. But, leave us a review, give us some feedback. It's going to help us make the show better, and it's going to help us book and continue to book great guests here on the Do It For Yourself podcast. So I thank you.